In this lesson, we're going to learn about the conventional information that is added to architectural plans, such as text labels, floor height, and dimensions. So some of the information that we speak about is actually already on the template that was brought in right at the beginning of the course. So you can have a look at that, and we can basically now move that across so that we can start working with some of this information. So I'm going to make a copy of the main page label, the north arrow, as well as some of this information here. And then I'm going to move that across, that's the copy, and I'm going to basically paste it here. Now in terms of the layout, once we get into the actual paper space layout, we can start to move the drawing label into the correct position. So for now, let's just get an approximate position, so something round about here, and we can then fine tune it at a later stage. So next thing we want to do is we want to align our north arrow. Now usually the north arrow, or at least the orientation, will be given to you together with the contours so that you know exactly in what direction you are working in. And this should definitely be a consideration in architecture when you do your initial planning. So in my case, in our case, we know that the rotation of north is going to be just above left. So basically left is there, so it's just going to be slightly higher than that. And the house is orientated in a way so that we are facing south, where the sun is in the northern hemisphere, and we have sunsets coming in from the west. So basically you're going to be catching afternoon sun. The whole house opens up into that afternoon sun time period, so that everything at the lounge and all of that catches those sunset rays as you're basically in the pool and in the lounge area. So that's the main idea, that when your sun is shining, you have this deck and everything is facing south. That is the ideal orientation. So north is obviously where the least of the sun is shining. So here we have most of those solid walls, the garage and everything. You have very little sun on that side. There's mainly shade on this part of the house. So hence all of the walls, and the whole house opens to that side. So with regards to the labels, what we're going to do first is we're going to label one or two of the rooms. Now you'll see already that we have text here that we can simply type in CO, enter, we can copy that across, and we can basically start copying and editing that text. So this, for example, will be called the entrance lounge, and so forth. And that text can basically just be moved and copied around the entire plan. Now I want to show you two different ways that text can be made, just in case you do want to go and start from scratch. Now remember what we learned in the beginning of the course. We had a look at the text style. This is quite important because it will basically tell the computer, or at least it'll tell CAD, what format, font, etc. you are going to be working in when you are creating text. So having that text correct in the beginning will be that overriding factor. So there are two types of text that you can create. One is called single line text, which is the simplest version of them all. To create this, you just type in DT enter, and you basically choose the point where you're going to start typing and then the direction. Then right click, and you will have your blinking cursor, and then you can type in your text label. This can then be scaled like you would scale any other object. SC enter, you grab the base point, and you can then either scale according to a reference, or you can type in a value of, let's say, 0.2 enter, and you can have that size. If you want to make a match property between another text, that works very, very well. So MA enter, and you can match properties with another text that you can get the size, color, layer, and all of that matching the properties of this one. So this text here is a multi-line text. This text is a single line text, and you'll see that you can't, and if you press enter, you won't go onto another line. You don't have any formatting options. To create this multi-line text that we have up here, you just type in empty enter, and you basically do the same thing, except this time we're going to have a window, or at least an extendable elastic window that we can specify, and then we can type within it. So here what you are able to do is you can type in 2 words, and you can type as many lines as you want. So here what we can do is we can change the size, we can change the font, the color, and the way that all of the text is formatted, if it's left, right, justified, in whichever direction. So I'm just going to reduce the size slightly, let's say 500. Another nice addition to this is that you have your symbol. So you have your squared sign down here if you want to do an area. So let's say 25 square meters. If you want to add that label anywhere, that squared symbol is definitely very helpful. So here you have that text being created. So I'm going to delete both of these. We don't need them. And the text now can just be copied and renamed according to every type of room that we are going to be labeling. Now, the next thing I'm going to show you is the height definition. And this will generally be quite close to your room label. And you want to do that per area that has a main floor height that is basically important enough to label. So what you want to do is you want to, let's say, get that done in your entrance, and then we will get one in the lounge and then one in the sunken lounge. You want to get it for the terrace, since you're going to probably step down by about 50 to 80 millimeters as you go off from the lounge area. And what that is going to be based on is either a figure which is above sea level, if you are aware of what those figures are, or if you're really far away from the ocean, you can always, in any case, use a datum point that you decide. So let's say we have our contours and we decide that this contour, which is, I don't know what height right now, but we can work that out, is going to be our 0 point. So this in reality, in above sea level terms, could be 16 meters above sea level, for example. It doesn't really matter. It's an arbitrary number, but that arbitrary number is going to equate to 0 in our drawings. So that means that once you cut a section through this, if this is 0, you're going to calculate the height difference between this contour and your floor level, and that is then going to be the height of that floor level. So what you're going to do once you work that out is you're going to come in here and you're going to type FFL for finished floor level, and you're going to type in your amount. So for example, that could be 2.30 meters. You don't have to put the meters at the end, but if it is clear enough, you can just type that in. So you could either have 2 or 3 digits trailing after the decimal. It doesn't really matter. The main thing is that you know what your numbers are, what your floor levels are, and that you then go and copy that to the different areas. A nice convention to add to that is to have a rectangular box around it, and just make sure that you match properties so that it is all on the same text layer. So this will be something that you will put underneath your label. So for example, this will be the entrance hall, and we will try to center that visually so that it all is all together. So the last thing we're going to talk about in this lesson are the dimensions. Again, we have a dimension here which is 1 in 100. So to create your dimensions, I usually go and just open up the toolbar that gives us all of our dimensions. And there are a couple of very useful ones here. The most obvious one is your simple linear dimension. This will give you a dimension between 2 points. And you basically just click on the first point, second point, and you drag out that distance where you want your dimension line to be. The second one is an aligned dimension, and this is one that we will typically use at an angle. So just make sure that you hit F8 so that you can actually access your full range of angles, and then just click on the second point and you will see that your dimension will be aligned with that angle that you have specified. There are a couple of others, such as the angular dimension, which will give you a difference in angle. So you can, for example, type that in and you will see that that is now 30 degrees. And the last one, which is quite a nice one, is one that gives you a quick dimension. So here you can choose multiple objects, and then you can basically pull out your multiple dimension of all those objects. So if you have 20 or 30 things that you want to have a running dimension of, you can just click on all those objects, pull out your dimension, and you don't have to do it individually. Otherwise, doing individual angular dimensions can take quite long if you have to go and do that to 200 separate lines. So those are your different dimension options, and the main thing that you see once they are all done is that the scale of those dimensions is matching what your template is telling you to use, so that 1 in 100 scale, where you can also do a test print to see that your text, your dimensions and all of that is the correct size and it is visible on your drawing. So that's going to conclude this lesson. It was basically just to show you the differences what you can add onto a drawing. There is a lot more information that we're still going to add. We have furniture, we're going to look at hatching, and there's a whole lot of things that we're still going to apply and layer on top of this drawing. So the next lesson we'll get into all of that slowly but surely as we work through this drawing, and then much later on we're going to go and copy this drawing to the upper level and then go and edit that before we go and do an elevation and a section. So all of that is still to come. Keep watching, and hope this lesson was nice and informative.